here's a layer here, and there's one right below it. They're kind of layered in that way. They're stacked on top of each other. Same way here. We got more and more layers as they go. Now, sometimes the cells are called keratinized, which means that they're tough. They produce a protein that makes them very tough. So your fingernails are keratinized. Very tough. They are the same type of tissue, cells, that's on the rest of your hand. They just have a lot of keratin in them.
So wait a second, they're not bone?
Nope. Nope. These are all tissues. These are all skin cells. Just like the rest of your skin and your body. They're just really, really tough. They got a lot of good stuff in them that makes them tough. That's why some people have really tough fingernails. Anybody got really strong fingernails?
How do you know if you have strong fingernails?
Well, if you don't, they break real easy. They tear real easy. Kind of wimpy. Right? But if you got really tough fingernails, you can pretty much beat on them and they don't break. So, how do you make your fingernails better? What do you do?
Drink a lot of milk.
Drink a lot of milk? That do it? Why?
Milk's not only good for your
It's got calcium in it?
has a lot of, yeah, calcium.
We need things like biotin and nesostol and some. Yep, you got to have the same stuff that you use for your hair. So if you soak your fingernails in the stuff that you put on your hair, and if it's good stuff, it'll make your fingernails stronger because it gives them the proper nutrients. But a lot of times you have to put them inside your body to feed the cells properly. Your cells, your fingernails grow from the inside outward, and that's where the blood supply is. There's no blood supply in your fingernail. There's no nerves in your fingernail. Thank goodness. That'd be terrible if every time you clipped your fingernails it made you cry. There's no blood vessels, there's no nerves inside your fingernails. All at the very end. That's where they come from. Yes?
So what's like the white little circle over here?
The little white circle, semicircle, that's called a luna. That's called a luna. That's part of your fingernail. We'll talk about that in the next chapter. Okay, so hang on to those questions. Also, then we have what they call non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. Oh, it's getting bigger, long in terms, right? This is multi-layered surface, but they are moist and slippery. These would be more like the inner membranes inside the body. So around your tongue, your oral cavities, your esophagus, the vaginal areas of the body, these have more of a wet, softer environment. So simple cuboidal epithelium. I'll show you some of these. Very simple stuff. Square, one layer thick. You find them in the kidney, the ducts, some small glands, and in the ovary surface. And this is what they look like. You'll see that they are square shaped. See right here, a square, another square, this one's square. Now they may not be perfectly square, but they look square. They look like an ice cube.
Wait, are there round cells then? No.
We have some oval cells, but not that many. Most of them are specific shape. And most people think that animal cells are all round, but they're not. They're not all round. We have many different sizes and shapes of them. Simple columnar, simple, one layer thick, column-sized, and they are found, we have some non-ciliated type. These are in the digestive system. We have some that are in the gallbladder, some of the ducts, excretory ducts, uterine tubes, and some of the parts of the uterus. So these have, a lot of times, will have cilia on them. Cilia are the little hairs. So if we look at these, you can see that these cells here are kind of rectangle in shape. And on the outside of it, they'll have little itty-bitty hairs sticking off. Yes?
Can you make multiples of cells? Like, you know how there's like a lot of cells, and there's Like, can you make multiples of cells? Do you understand my question?
Not yet.
Huh?
Keep going.
Like, can you clone a cell?
Can you clone a cell?
Yeah.
They are able to clone some cells. Yep, they can make cells.
Like the same, identical, everything the same and stuff.
That's why they made Dolly the sheep and all those. They've cloned everything except humans. And I think they've done that too. Yes.
Will the nuclei always be like in the similar position as you look at like this one, how they're all towards the base? Like others, they'll all be towards the middle?
In certain tissues, yes. Not always. Not always. Like if you looked at that, the cells the other day and the onion cells, those nucleuses were all over in the cells. These are positioned this way because they're closer to the basal cells on the outside, so the cilia are on the outside. Some of the cells, when you get to the pseudostratified, those they don't have any rhyme or reason to them. These just look really nice and pretty that way. Here's some that are columnar, they're right in the center. Or some of them are off to this. So here's one that's more on the end, this one's more in the center. You know, they're just kind of varieties in there. They're not exactly in the center of the cell, but they can be. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium. These don't look, they appear stratified, they appear columnar, but they're really not. They're kind of false looking. I find these in the non-ciliated type in the male sperm area carrying capacity in the ducts, the ciliated ones, the trachea, and most of the upper respiratory tract. These are the ones that help push the junk out of our lungs. And you can see that they're kind of all over the place. The little black areas of are the nuclei. Some of them are at the end of the cells, some of them are at the beginning and the middle of the cells. They look stratified, but they're only really one layer thick. Those have cilia on them. Stratified squamous. Stratified means many layers. Squamous, flat. Very mitotic. They can reproduce a lot. They're located, we have some of the non-forms, are the esophagus, the mouth, and the vaginal area of the non-keratinized. These are our skin cells on the outside of our body also. So this is what our skin looks like if you magnify it. Those are the outer layers of our skin. Now the inner layers of our skin are very mitotic. They grow, reproduce a lot. And they push the cells to the outside of our body, and then we slough them off. We'll talk about next chapter how that all ends up in our beds. Stratified cuboidal. These are quite rare in the body. They're square, and they're stratified in many layers. We find them in sweat glands and in the mammary glands. That's about it. The one on the side here is more of an artist's rendition of how these cells should look. But you can see that they are square, and they are in a definite pattern. They're stratified. Okay, so these are some more of these transitional epithelium. They are found in the bladder. They are able to stretch with the bladder, and so as your bladder fills, they'll stretch, and they're also able to return back to a normal size and shape after the bladder has been stretched. Okay, so that's epithelium. That's one of the types of tissues that we have in the body. The next type is the connective tissue. We have 4 types of connective tissue. We have connective tissue proper, cartilage, bone tissue, and blood. These are all connective tissue. Now, what makes a connective tissue? Well, connective tissues are special in that they have special needs. We have to have certain components to make a connective tissue. All connective tissue have 3 things. Cells, like a nerve cell or a skin cell, right? They have a matrix, which is kind of the goo that holds them together. And then they have fibers. The fibers lock things together. Kind of think this is like cement. Did anybody ever watch them make cement? What do they put in cement?
Water.
Water?
Concrete
Cement
mix.
Concrete mix? What's in the concrete mix? Yogurt?
No, it's powder.
Powder?
Probably depends on-
What's the powder? Boy, there's so much concrete and you guys don't know what it is? You just walk on it?
Dirt.
Yeah.
You gotta ask questions.
Kind of like tar.
Talks.
Well, that's an asphalt. That's an asphalt.
It's dirt and rocks, isn't it?
What?
It's dirt and rocks.
Sand and rocks, right? It's basically rocks. So if you go up here to Buffalo, they have those big holes in the side of the road. Have you ever been up there? Big caverns down there, right? What are they doing there?
Mining.
For what? Yes. What are they mining for?
rocks and mining for diamonds.
Diamonds. Nope, no diamonds there.
Gold.
That'd be nice.
I would be people would do it.
You're talking about Buffalo.
Yep, up in Buffalo. What are they mining for?
Rocks.
Rocks, yeah. Calcium carbonate, limestone.
Somebody just died because they were mining.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. That was unfortunate, but that's pretty rare. I don't remember it happening like that. But anyway, they're going in, they're taking this calcium carbonate, this limestone, they crush it up. They crush it up and they mix it with other sand and rock, and they make cement. That's kind of what we have. We have cells, we can call those the big rocks that they put in it. Then we have the sand, and we have the mixture that makes it more solid. Well, our cells have the same mechanism. It has cells, it has fibers that lock it together, and we also have the matrix that holds it, the goo that holds it together. Otherwise, our cells would just separate and go everywhere else. They would diffuse apart. So we have connective tissues have those three things. Remember those three things. Those will definitely be on the test. Guarantee it. Highlight it, star it, write it on your notes, twice, whatever it takes.
You said cells, matrices, and fibers?
Yep, cells, matrix, and fibers.
Cells are the tissue, matrix is the glue, and water fibers?
Fibers kind of lock everything together. They're the mechanism that locks everything together. So connective tissue have what they call a mesenchyme. They're common tissue of origin. This is where they all develop from. They have, some of them have lots of blood vessels, lots of vascularity, and others don't. And they are separated by extracellular matrix. They're held together by ground substance and fibers that hold everything together. So the cells of this connective tissue are what creates the ability for this to reproduce. So they are very mitotic, which means that they can reproduce. Mitosis, I should say. And they create very primitive cells called blasts. If you see the word blast, that means that they're not having fun. It just means that they are very active cells. A good example is the osteoblast inside of our bones. It helps to build our bones up and make them stronger. If you see the word clast, osteoclast, that means that they're breaking the bones down. Now, whenever you see the word cyte, C-Y-T-E-S, that means it's a cell, like a chondrocyte or a myocyte. Okay? Those are the specific types of cell of that connective tissue. So we have chondroblasts, chondrocytes, which are cartilage tissue, osteoblasts, osteocytes are bone tissue, are bone cells and tissue. Hematopoietic stem cells, we are found in the bone marrow. These are very active cells. And then we also have fat cells. White blood cells, other cells like macrophages. These are very active cells that we can reproduce. Now the ground substance is what kind of glues everything together. Holds the cells, holds the fibers in place, makes everything stick together. It'll help with the what they call proteoglycans, some water, some protein, some sugars. Kind of helps, kind of like paper mache. If you ever paper mache'd something, this is kind of what the ground substance is like. The goo that you mix up. The fibers, we have several different types of fibers, 3 of them. We have the collagen fibers, which are kind of white and they're tough. We have elastic fibers that are stretchy. And then we have reticular fibers, which are short, fine, and highly branched collagenous fibers. They're really tough. They hold everything together. Now we can have 3 types of loose connective tissue. These are tissues that aren't really packed too tightly together. We have areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and reticular tissue. Lots of different kinds of tissue. Areolar tissue, gel-like matrix. We have fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells, and some of the red blood cells fit into this situation. And they're all over the body. We find them in the lamina propria, the mucous membranes, and we find them in the organs, in the capillaries of our bodies. But they help to cushion the system. Back up. There we go. This is what they look like. It's not going to stay, is it? Fighting with the program. This is lots of fibers, see? It's going back and forth. I don't know why it's doing this. It wants to go to adipose, so we're going to go to adipose. What's another name for adipose? Fat. Fat cells. These are the cells that hold our fat in our bodies, right? The matrix is an areolar type of tissue, but it's very sparse. These are closely packed hepatocytes. Hepatocytes, fat cells. They have a nucleus pushed to one side and is full of fat. A large fat drop in them. They provide cushioning, insulation, fuel reserve. They help store the excessive nutrients that we need. We find them around most of the large organs of the body. The kidneys, the heart, the liver, eyeballs, all have fat around them for energy and for cushioning. Found them within the abdominal areas, your tummy, and around the breast tissue, mostly fat tissue. People that gain weight will have large adipose cells. You don't get a lot of new adipose cells when you gain weight. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you go in and get liposuction, what is liposuction? They suck the fat out. So how do they do that? They just put their lips down on your tummy and
No, they have like this big like machine, I think, that you like sit, and it just like covers your like stomach or something. I don't know, I saw them.
It's kind of like a vacuum. I don't know.
kind of like a vacuum.
Yeah.
So what they have is they have a vacuum tube, and it's kind of like a pencil. Probably about the size of this pencil, right? But longer. And then they make an incision inside where they want to take it out. Say they want to take it out of your butt, right? They make an incision in there, and then they go like this, and they break the adipose cells down. They just chomp, 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 chomp. They break them down, and while they're doing it, this is a hollow tube, and it's sucking the fat. And it goes through a tube into a container. And then they'll go to the other cheek, like this, up and down, all over. They'll suck all that excessive fat out of the cells. But the problem is if they don't get all those cells broken up very evenly, you'll have a streak here and a streak here. You'll have a ripple butt.
Don't they like tie, like if you have liposuction in your stomach, they tie your stomach so it's smaller?
That's different. That's a different type of surgery. Yep. Liposuction is just fat. That's a gastric bypass you're thinking about. Yep. So they'll get bigger, and you get these rolls, right, on the outside of your tummy, okay, as you get older. Nobody has that problem yet, but you're going to get there, right? Then we can measure it. We can find out how much fat we do have by calibrations. Some people that get excessive amounts of fat, it just keeps growing.
How is that possible?
And it's just the fat deposits become greater and greater and greater. They just can't. That's very difficult on the heart too, on the body. And then we have this band, right?
From Austin Powers?
Austin Powers, yeah. Get in my belly. That's what happens. They eat too much. It keeps getting big. It's bigger and bigger, and people, this is a problem where some people they're addicted to food, and it becomes very difficult for them to lose weight. Most people that don't have a weight problem, they think, well, why can't they just lose weight? Well, it becomes a psychological dependency almost to the food, and it becomes very difficult. Just like smoking or taking drugs, it's the same thing for them. So it becomes very difficult. This is fat. This is what it would look like if you took the fat out of your body and laid it on the side of the bed, right?
It's yellow and stuff.
Kind of a yellowish color, yeah.
Does fat weigh more than muscle?
Muscle weighs more than fat. But people that have lots of fat aren't actually stronger. That's one of the things that we talked about the other day in another class. Somebody that weighs 300 pounds, most people think, well, since they're really big, they can lift a lot of weight. It's not the case, because not only do they have to lift the weight that you want them to lift, but they also have to lift the weight of their arms or their legs that they're working with. So if they have a 100-pound leg, they have to lift that first before they can lift anything else. So don't assume that somebody is, just because they're big and heavy, means that they can lift a lot more than anyone else. Right? Okay, how many people do we have at SI today? 3 people. Where's everybody else at? Who went to SI today? All right, where are the rest of you people? We need you at SI. We need more people there to make this worthwhile for everyone else. The more people, the more discussions we have, the better learning environment we have. So next Monday, everybody go to SI at what time? 11:40. In Strand 9. Everybody get there. If you're not doing your goal, I'm going to be calling you in this week to discuss why you're not meeting your goal for the class, to find out what's going on. At that point, then I'm going to highly recommend that you go to SI if you're not meeting your goal. I'm going to want to know why you're not there. We have this set up for you. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.